Now, hey, I think we actually have something here, folks. I'm pretty sure you'll be able to hear me. Maybe. Are we good? All right, awesome. My God, that was a real ass ache. I hate Streamlabs in general, but I really hate it today because it just made me look incompetent, which, I mean, I am. So, what are we going to do? Alrighty. I hope you all had a wonderful week. I was humming and hawing as to whether I would stream or not, and then I thought, YOLO, we'll do like, it might only end up being like a bit of a short stream. I don't know. Last time I thought it would be a short stream, and it ended up being like super long. So yeah, I hope you're all doing really good, having a fun time, ready for your weekends. I know I am. I'm playing an unreleased, quite awesome video game, which is nice. I need to reach my keyboard because I want to talk about yesterday's lore dump a little bit and see if people agree with me. Gotta open up Discord, get my notes. Alrighty. Oh, I really should like message somewhere that I'm live now because people gave out to me last time because I forgot. I haven't touched literally a single miniature with a paintbrush this week. It's been so busy. And it's been a little frustrating because of that. But what can you do? I'll get to paint over the weekend, then I'll get to paint next week. I'm going to finish up my Hell Knights finally over the weekend that I do like. I think the metal is looking good. And it's kind of rusty and it's kind of not rusty. I just like patina. What's my favorite faction, sub-faction so far? I think just the standard Heretic Legions are my favorite sub-faction because they have Clive, who is MIA right now. I don't know where I left Clive. Let me see if I can find him. Where did I put him? I thought I'd have him somewhere really easy to grab, but apparently not. Oh. Yeah, my boy Clive. He is also, once again, not finished, but I really like the way he's coming along. I have to do like white ink into the sigils and then red on top and bring them up a little bit. But I think Clive is looking nice. Nice and hungry. I kind of put him at like a hyper aggressive angle on the base. I wanted him like the official Clive is more straight up like that, but I wanted him to really look like he's doing that loping thing that that monsters do in movies. So yeah, the heretics are definitely my favorite so far, I would say. I like all the models though. I don't know if there's a model in range that I dislike. There's a lot I like more than others, I shall say. And the sorcerers who we were painting last time. That's where we got to. I think he's looking fine. He's looking tabletop ready. Except for the base. I think he's looking pretty good. I'm quite happy with the way the robes came out. So, he's looking groovy. Hello, Nicholas Smith. Thanks for joining, Frickface. I never do this. I'm not quite used to streaming it, so I never do shout outs. Donal Satan. Thank you, Satan, for coming. Just Z. I just digibash my own Wolf. Can't wait to print them. If you're in the Discord, throw a picture of him in one of the chats there, so I can have a peek. I've gotten into Mesh Mixer, and I'm slowly learning how to kit bash stuff and do all that kind of cool shit. But I'm nowhere where I need to be quite yet. But we'll get there. Michael Hatch, thank you for joining. Yes, I watched Uncle Adam and Sam Lens earlier, and I thought they had a really nice. I really like those videos about any board game because it's just a couple of people who have played it and they're talking about the ins and outs of their first experience with the game. And I honestly think that does more to sell most games than anything else. Because it's like, yeah, we found this a little confusing, but we found this completely awesome. And it just does a really good job of kind of cutting past all the PR and all the bullshit and all the, no offense to anybody, the community kind of hype that can happen a little bit. Like, it's, nobody's going to get a unbiased opinion out of me ultimately, because I've liked it enough to dedicate my time to it and my channel to it. So here's a link to the Discord, which we only set up due to chat pressure last time. So you can get stuff done in chat. Who knew? I work best watching tutorials and watching people play more than reading. What's the best live play and comprehensive rules breakdown for people with single-digit IQ like me to watch? That's a really good question. I would say probably the best how to play is the guy whose channel name I always forget and I feel incredibly rude about it. Give me 2 seconds. This is a little out of date.
Very max power.
Shut up, advert. This is a little out of date, but it's the best one I've found. And I keep meaning to make one and roping in some of my friends in the scripting thereof. But I keep forgetting to do it because I'm a lazy fuck. Ultimately. But yeah, that's the best one I found for sure. Am I planning on doing more narrative battle reports? Yes, I am 100%. As soon as I get past my current... I'm horribly employed right now I took on a big enough job for somebody, and once that's wrapped, I'll get back to doing like a lot of the shit that I want to do. I just haven't had time. I feel really bad because the channel's been pretty quiet for the last like 8 weeks because I've been doing other stuff. But narrative battle reports will be coming back. I'll be doing Rob, and you're extremely generous. Thank you so much. But there's no need to be donating stuff. But incredibly generous. Thank you. I don't know if I turned off. I should have a donation box somewhere, I think, that pops up, unless I'm crazy. Is it you? Where are you? Event list. I think it's that guy. But yeah, I'll be going back to doing narrative battle reports. I'll be doing my long threatened build with some terrain. Like, I'll be putting a board together, and I'll do narrative battle reports here with my painted minis and stuff like that. I plan on live streaming will become more common and more structured and stuff. I'll do like little live streams like this, but I want to do a regular live stream. At the moment, we're in my head anyway, we're calling it Friday Night Fights, where it will be people playing in Tabletop Simulator, the game, and it will be me and a couple of folks that I know doing like commentary over the play, which will be fun. So yeah, lots of different types of battle reports coming, basically, including live ones, but lots of narrative ones too, because I really enjoyed those and they kind of wrote themselves in a way. And some of my favorite writing is in there, like the sea shanty that I came up with for my mate Nurgle's faction was in there, so that was pretty cool. I love Warhammer, but never got into the game or rules. Trench Crusade is the first game I was truly interested in playing. That's interesting, Z. Do you mind me asking what it is specifically about Trench Crusade that you find interesting? Is it like the theme or the scale or anything like that? I always find that really interesting. I know I've seen a lot of people say that they're aware of Warhammer and they love the lore. They love reading the books, they love the games, and I get it because it's a super cool world. But the final crossing over into actually playing the game seems to be an issue. And I think the overall issue is cost. I really enjoyed the post-battle stuff. Made the warbands really feel alive. Yes, I agree 100%. So I will definitely bring that stuff back and get after it. Alrighty, what was I doing? Oh yeah, I was going through messages from people to find the notes. Well, they're not really notes, they're just Tomas sent me the write-up early, as he usually does. I'm very blessed. So the Helmet of the North, I thought there was just some really dope shit in here that I want to do a video on. I'm going to do a video on it tomorrow. I'm just going to have a chill talky video. I mean, of course, it's all interesting, but I meant that the rules are really interesting to me as a core player. Okay, interesting, dope. That's groovy. I'm glad to hear that, because I think the rules are quite a bit of fun. Alrighty. So these are things that jumped out to me as really interesting within the lore that dropped yesterday, which I'm assuming most people here will be aware of. It'll be the... Oh, nice, Andrew. What warbands are you working on? The Helmet lore. I thought it was super cool. I think that's somebody following. Yeah, just JL Razor just subscribed. Now, I'm reasonably convinced that These are just people subscribing to the channel and not people in the stream. So, thank you anyway for posterity for subbing JL Razor. I really appreciate it. Oh, there's my Discord. That was me. I'm sorry. Oh, it's a friend of mine. Alrighty, these are the things. I'm finally going to get there eventually, I swear. These are the things that really stood out to me in the lore as being very interesting, because there are things that everybody has questioned. First of all, well, last of all, the forces of the heretics can appear as friendly gods, right? The repulsive can appear resplendent, and the damned divine and all that kind of shit. That's really cool and interesting, because they may have given themselves a way to expand out into the world and do themed warbands and themed miniatures from any kind of fate system with a kind of a get out of jail free card of, oh, it was heaven or oh, it was hell all along. We you know, they were just appealing to you as the fate that you believed in. And that's actually what I wanted them to do. When I wrote the Cataclysm story, which is the one I did about the Hellgate opening up, the main one in Jerusalem, I talked to Mike before I published that, and I said, if you don't want me to publish this, I won't, because it's a huge moment in the game. And we kind of talked about it and thought it would be really cool if people saw whatever they wanted to see, or, you know, whatever was the gate of hell to them is what it is when they look at it. It kind of warps your perception and becomes the thing that you find the most horrifying. And we thought that was kind of really groovy. So that precedent in soft canon is there, and they might have just given themselves a way to do any kind of warbands they want from any kind of fate system that they want and have them tied into the overall war. And we'll never know. Like, I'm convinced of this. We will actually never know. We won't know if it's the divine or the damned appearing to them and manipulating them, or if it really is their own fate system and all that kind of stuff. So I really like that. That stood out to me as that's exactly what I would do if I was looking for a way to do this pretty easily. And I would mention similar things a couple of times over the coming months and then start really exploring it. I always found Warhammer, especially 40k, to be a little too cartoonish for my liking. Trench Crusade seems more grounded despite the horrors of the setting. I think, yes, now, weirdly, Warhammer 40k has become a bit cartoony. It's a bit anime now. And I don't mean like horror anime or scary anime or anything like that. I mean, it's Gundam. And no offense to Gundam, I like Gundam, but Gundam's like, it's pretty clean lines, I would argue, narratively. And it's become that. It's become tactical rather than grimdark. And everybody accuses Trench Crusade of being grimderp. I concur that it's grimderp, no doubt about it. But I like it. Like, I like grimderp. I always did. I really liked Warhammer when Warhammer was grimderp. When it was just like over the top silly, because the over the top silly made it feel realer in that strange way. And that's why I like Trench Crusade, because ultimately it's absolutely fucking ridiculous and ludicrous and makes no fucking sense. And there's demons crawling out of a hole in time and space to eat your face. But it's good because at the heart of every story is just a human being. So I dig it. Andrew, finish both New Antioch and Heretic Legions. Need two of them to play with friends. Nice. That like the play part of the hobby, but not the crafting part. That's cool. I think it's very dope that you're willing to put the time in to do that, and you also just get the excuse of being able to do more hobby, which is always nice. Yeah, I do feel like Warhammer can be quite silly at times, which I think is partly from the insistence on the grim dark setting. My thoughts on Warhammer, especially Warhammer 40k, is that like when I was a kid, there was a degree of satire and ambiguity to it, no doubt about it. There was definitely like Space Marines and the Imperium was very much pulling the piss out of expansionism and colonialism and, you know, that militarization that the world seemed to be going through, especially in the 80s, the Cold War and building up armies on both sides. It was very prevalent in people's heads, so it was going to like leak in one way or the other. I find people who say that those days of Warhammer weren't satire get hung up on satire as being a vehicle for humor when it's not. Satire is just a vehicle for exaggeration. The result is different, be it humor or condemnation or, you know, whatever. Now, these days, I really think they need to just lean into the fact that essentially the Space Marines are the good guys in this setting. That is now the way it is being written. It's been written almost exclusively from the first person perspective of the Empire or of the Imperium, and the fact that the Emperor made his great sacrifice and, you know, was betrayed and all that kind of stuff. They've just leaned into it so hard. Just do it. Finish the fucking job. Call the Imperium the good guys, and they'll actually start to make it interesting again, because they're designing and writing and drawing everything as if the Imperium are the good guys. So why fuck around? There's nothing wrong with the Imperium being the good guys. They can just be the good guys. Good guys do horrible shit. It's okay. Jonathan, your vid on the Synod of Strategic Prophecy has been on repeat. No bullshit. I think that's my best one so far in delivery. I listened back to it a couple of times, and I'm just very pleased with how that came out. So thank you very much. I'm really happy with that one. Love 40k, but I'm a Christian, and Trench Crusade just appeals more. The Bible teaches that Satan can appear as an angel of light, by the way. Yes, the Bible does. So that's kind of one of the really interesting things to me about Trench Crusade is people keep saying that like it won't appeal to Christians, but everywhere I go, Christians are playing Trench Crusade on the Facebook, the Reddit, Twitter, Discord, everywhere. Christians seem to be really enjoying something that is representative of their faith. Is it quite extreme? Of course it is. It's a tabletop game, and it, you know, blows out the edges a lot on how this stuff might go down in real life. But most people that I'm talking to anyway, who are of various Christian denominations, seem to just be enjoying the game. So that's pretty groovy. Trench Crusade is also grimdark, but feels more grounded because the scale is so much smaller. Yes, everybody has a name, is how I look at it. It's the same in skirmish level. Like, my favorite games are, and kind of have been for the longest time, the skirmish level stuff. Like the OG Necromunda, I think, was my absolute favorite game, because you can just put that much more thought and focus onto everything, which is pretty cool. King's Paladin Gaming. There, I think my name is proper now. It seems proper, which is good. My friend and I both have 2 warbands already. He's got Naval Raiders and Trench Ghosts. Going for those OP sub-factions. Let's go. I got a band of Trench Pilgrims and Court. See, this is the joy of skirmish games, right? We can all play multiple things, and it's not a tremendous time investment to make that happen, which is good. I also need a Trench Crusade mod for Hearts of Iron yesterday. Yes, everybody's saying that, especially I did the video about what kind of a game would you like to, you know, what kind of video game would you like from Trench Crusade? A lot of like Hearts of Iron, basically, which is pretty groovy. Cloudy Cat, you're being so cruel and mean. Eustace the monk. I don't think I've said hello to you, Eustace the monk, so hello. Nice monkly robes, by the way, in the avatar. It can be even more tragic that the good guys sometimes have to do awful things in order to safeguard the galaxy. Yes, that is almost the entire point of the Imperial Guard a lot of the time, is that, like, just sometimes you're making really brutal choices, and I really like that aspect of it. I dislike generally anything that portrays war as being a very simplistic thing. Like, you're always making a choice, right? You're making a choice to send somebody out to fight. You're always risking somebody else's life. And I don't think that is often covered well in modern media. It's always kind of made up and made like super heroic instead of tragic, when that's a shame. Starship Troopers movie versus the book. Yes. Talk about one of the most interesting divergences from source material was the tone of how that movie went out. But the movie was always going to be that way with the director. Warhammer turned from book to movie over the time. Yeah. Space Marines are lame. Imperial Guard is where it's at. I concur. When I was younger, I always wanted an Imperial Guard army, and I keep threatening myself to just do it now, because I could if I wanted to, because there's so many dope ass STLs out there. It wouldn't even cost too much money, but it's really just a time thing. I would love to have an Imperial Guard army, for sure. Chris, I'm going to pronounce your name as Chris, if it is Chris. Thank you very much for the super chat. I greatly appreciate it. Lata, that's the exact opposite response I get when I show Christians this. Just you get people, or you get Christians thinking it's kind of bad, or they're not into it. Interesting. I think there's potentially, I don't want to like predict where you live, but tell, if you don't mind letting me know what country you're from. I think there might be a broader cultural issue at play there outside of just the actual religious aspect itself. Seeing this game trigger some people for weird reasons. Yes, I agree. I have seen a lot of weird shit, and I see a lot of weird shit pop up in my comments sometimes. I do my best to keep an eye on it, and I try and push back on the stuff that I, strongly disagree with. It's unfortunate, but I see a lot of like anti kind of anti whatever you want sentiment. I see some anti-Christian sentiment, I see some anti-Muslim sentiment, I see some anti-Jewish sentiment in there, and I try and spot it basically, and either call the person a fucking dope or push back on it, depending on kind of. Generally, I will leave it there and publicly push back if they don't use any slurs. If they just try and say something weird, I'll point out that they're weird. And yeah, and anti-woke stuff as well. Obviously, lots of people complaining about like, oh, they don't let me like use slurs and shit in the fucking Discord. It's like, yeah, whatever the fuck. If that's your thing, then maybe you're just a dope. All right, we're moving now. Jonathan, given that it's alternate history and we know Hitler served in World War I, everybody asks about Hitler. A cool short story, maybe Hitler's exploits just as a line trooper. People have asked me to do that, and my response is always the same. In my soft canon, Hitler got stepped on by a horse when he was a kid and killed. I don't have any interest in producing a story that people might interpret as an attempt to whitewash one of the most despicable figures in history. It's not of any interest to me. So in my version of Trench Crusade, he's just fucking dead. And when he was a 4-year-old, he got stood on by a horse. So that's been my take. I just don't have any interest in it. Every time I've seen that kind of media be produced, even from a place of good intentions, you can't control the interpretation that the audience will put on it. And some people will go, oh, this guy really likes Hitler. He's like me. I like Hitler. And I'm like, no, ain't happening. Some doors I just don't really want to open, and I don't want to have to deal with them afterwards. Oz, I needed to play Custodes because I was poor. That was the one good thing about Custodes, is just that super low model count, and then they kind of fucked that over by tripling the price of everything anyway. So you can't have shit in this world, I'm afraid. I printed my whole Imperial Guard army. That's my plan too. I don't have any interest in finding free versions of the official models. I will support people who make proxies, and I will print my army that way. I think I have a lot of thoughts about the 3D printing landscape, and first and foremost is my mind is that there's a lot of really talented people out there that I should probably be paying for their work instead of worrying about freebies that just copy other companies. I just don't want to do that. I don't have a huge interest in it. So Kings, if you know of like dope ass Lehman Russ proxies and things of that nature, and you want to let us know, feel free. Just know like copying of official models, that's ungroovy for me. A crossover with Kingdom Come Deliverance will also go pretty hard, given the enormous prevalence of religion in both settings. That would actually be really interesting, because you could do like a well away from the front lines thing, and how life has been affected by it. Hey, come on now, Cloudy Cat, be nice. Just wanted to say thank you for all the content and the cozy stream that has got me in the mood to paint my Horus Heresy World Eaters. No problem. I've got the Horus Heresy box, and I've yet to decide what chapter I'm painting up. I've been doing a lot of reading, unsurprisingly, of books based on tabletop properties, because I kind of want to see, like, I would love, not officially, obviously, I would never expect that. I would love to try and write a book. So I want to see what kind of stuff people come up with from other games and things like that. So I've been reading, unsurprisingly, the Horus Heresy again, and it's put me in the mood to put together quite a few models that are currently sitting in pieces on my shelves. Satanic Panic 2.0. I think at this point we would be on Satanic Panic like 4.0. At this point, there was the late 70s when, well, no, first of all, there was the 50s. Then that bled into McCarthyism, and they got more interested in finding fucking commies than Satanists. And then there was the late 70s, and then there was definitely the late 80s into the early 90s because of like death metal and shit like that. And now we're back at it again, and we do it all the time. Hey, goddamn, Cloudy Cat, don't be so loud. Anti-woke, yes, lots of anti-woke stuff kind of pops up on the channel from time to time, but I just, once again, I push back on it because it's all just silliness to me. Like, what's your problem? I was kind of like, I am enjoying this game. That's good to know. I'm glad that people are able to enjoy it, because it is ultimately like just a game. I have fun sometimes, and I think this might be an insane idea for a video, but I was gonna like kind of have a chat with a priest maybe and show him some of the art and maybe talk about the lore and stuff, and just get like, in an academic sense, not like looking to shock anybody, but just in an academic sense, get his take on it. I thought that might be an interesting or odd video, just not something that you see very often. All right, my cat's being a real mare, so give me 2 seconds. Alrighty, I'm very sorry about that. The cat is just being silly. New California is the same. I'm assuming same is that you're a Catholic and just enjoying the game, in which case that's dope. They don't flat out call it blasphemous. They just find it uncomfortable and cite their beliefs. Also, I'm in America. Yeah, I thought it might be America, because I feel like in America, especially right now, for whatever reason, religious people are feeling like under attack a lot. I don't know if I necessarily agree with their stance, but I know that's how many of them can feel in certain areas. And a lot of the time it's because they feel like they're seeing the erosion of what they consider to be their traditional values. But traditional values are something that you yourself live by. It's not something that you enforce on somebody else. Here in Ireland, my whole life, we've seen a relinquishing of the power of the church, I guess, in society, and have become what would be deemed a more liberal rather than conservative society in many ways. So I'm not shocked that people might react negatively to that, because people reacted negatively to it here for sure. And I can understand why. I'm not like dismissing the concern. But I would argue that, like, I have the way that I want to live my life and the way I think I should, and everybody needs to come to their own decisions about it and get the fuck out of each other's business, maybe. Alrighty, I think I tangented there. As a Lutheran, I am enjoying this game. We're getting more and more into the specifics of the faith of people now. That's pretty groovy. I wonder if we did like a poll, what the breakout would be. That'd be pretty groovy. Papal States Intervention Force for the win. Hells yeah. I'm really excited to see any kind of sculpts that they release for those. People get mad at the game, and I'm like, you can be upset all you want. I'm gonna go have fun killing heretics. Yes, King's Paladin Gaming. I really try to just, when people are very angry in the comment section over something in the video or something that I've said or I've done, I really just try and remind them that you're better off just associating and spending time thinking about things that make you happy as opposed to stuff that makes you mad, because life is very short. I very rapidly went from being a 20-year-old to being 43, and I'm kind of a little shook by how fast that occurred. And I'm very glad I didn't spend any of that time focusing on stuff I hated. I've always tried to really kind of fill my life with stuff and people that I like. So that's, I just say that to people in the comments too. When they're like, oh, XYZ, I'm just like, look, if you don't like the game, cool. But find something you do like. It's a much better way to spend your time. I think it's sad that so much of the internet now exists primarily to just dislike or hate stuff. That's a big shame. And I understand there's good money in it. I think I could do a channel where I try to whip up, you know, all the hatred that you see and all the like, oh my god, did you see what fucking Disney did? All that kind of stuff. And I could give a fiddler's fuck about Disney. Like, I don't care. So why would I talk about it? I would just rather not and talk about stuff that is cool and groovy. Jeremiah of Ekron, what are you doing here? How the hell did you get out of Ekron? Showed this game to folks and they got mad that the Islamic faction were less grimdark than the Christian factions. Like, it really offended them. They were genuinely big mad. That comes up in the comments sometimes too. People just seem to think that the Iron Sultanate have not done that much horrible shit, and I would like completely disagree. For me, the most horrible thing that you can do, first of all, is just be isolationist in times of crisis. And they are isolationists, right? The world is at war. They grudgingly term themselves co-belligerents with people against hell. They strongly hold the grudge that it was not them, basically, that started it. They, as far as I'm aware, are full in the knowledge that they're creating artificial life which can never be saved. Like, they have no idea what happens that, you know, the homunculus and the lines of Jabir and all that stuff after they do die. They don't know what they're condemning them to. I'm also pretty sure I've seen a couple of people, I don't know how accurate this is, but I've seen a couple of people say in the comment section that in their opinion the whole creation of artificial life would be like not something that that Islam would fuck with, really. So they seem to have really like gone against maybe one of the tenets of their religion. I can't say that for sure. I honestly don't know. It's just something that I see coming up in the comment section. Then you look at stuff like the Janissaries, which are within religious context as well as within the game itself. They're like kidnapped kids that they've drugged and trained to fight for them. Like I think I think people are just glossing over stuff because trench pilgrims are fucking rowdy as fuck, and then they ignore the fact that like on the Christian side, are there trench pilgrims? Yes, there's trench pilgrims. Are trench pilgrims pretty fucking nuts? Yes, they are. They're over the top, kind of crazy with the flagellation and the nails through the eyes and all that kind of stuff. New Antioch aren't that, right? New Antioch are very ordered, very sane, very militarized. Do the church do some crazy shit? Yes, of course they do. All power structures do. So I just find it really weird that people do that. They latch on to the Iron Sultanate as being like, once again, something that's designed to make them feel bad. And it implies to me that they're a little insecure. I don't know what they're insecure about, but, you know, shit happens. We all get insecure about stuff. I was born less than 20 kilometers away from Hitler. That's a party starter. Yeah, I'd say it is. For sure, based. Unfortunately, we've all talked so much that I have no idea what the based is actually in relation to, but somebody was based, so cool, well done. Have the devs said whether they're going to expand on the pre-1914 lore? Yeah, all that stuff will come up in like world building. Over time, there's really important bits of the timeline that will get like expanded out and written about. It's just look at like Avignon recently. That's obviously a really important occurrence, was the fall of Avignon, and we'll probably learn more about Jeanne d'Arc. As the problem is, they need to grow geography first. They need to figure out the map, which we're all impatiently waiting for, and decide what the world is and what it looks like and where the boundaries of it occur and what the nations that exist are, and then decide on the political relationship of those nations, and then they can start expanding out properly. I think historically, if they commit to something now, they might just want to change it. I'd like to know how exactly Nelson died, among other things. I was thinking about Nelson the other day, which is weird because I'm Irish. We don't often think about Admiral Nelson, but out of the big historical, we'll call them Britannia figures mentioned in the lore, he's the one that I'm also very interested in, right? We know he ate shit at the Battle of the Bloody Cliffs, but I kind of want to know the exact nature of his death, but I might want to know that because I'm Irish, so who knows. Eustace, the monk. Yeah, you can't control how people see any work of art. Exactly. I think that was quite a while ago. I think I've been talking a long time. The reason we don't have time travel is that Child Hitler is a pro at dispatching time travelers because he is their first target. Yeah, like that's actually a really fun take on stuff. So you go back in time to assassinate baby Hitler and he just beats your fucking ass because people keep showing up trying to kill him. So he gets really good. He's like some kind of fucking crazy ass version of the Highlander or some shit. That one Love, Death and Robots episode, I've not watched as many of those as I should have, but I'm definitely gonna get my ass onto it because I keep seeing groovy clips of it. I also try to avoid things that touch off what? I'm being kind of weird as I work through a couple of things around Hand of Fate right now because I don't want to lift any ideas, basically. And I feel like Love, Death and Robots is definitely a place where I could lift ideas from, so I don't want to do it. Robin, I'm making Papal Force New California. Go for it. If you're in the Discord, give us a peek. As I worked in an advertising agency with a nice printer, I printed close to 60 or 42 cards in HD proxy for the win. Oh, God. That's the way to go. That is definitely the way to go. You should have just printed a load of black notices. Fuck it, why not? Get in on the ground floor, start writing, and become the Gav Thorpe of Trench Crusade. I have a rather depressing feeling that Gav Thorpe will just become the Gav Thorpe of Trench Crusade. They've got a bit of a head start on me. But my plan is to do... I'm currently doing up the synopsis of the book, and I'm trying to figure out what kind of story I want to tell, because I'm not interested in a single story. I've realized I don't just like, I would like to create a character in the world and then carry that character through various events. So that's what I want to do, and we'll see how it goes. But yeah, it would be pretty sick. Like, and the way I see it is, at the very least, I will write it in like big lumps. You know, I'll write like 3 or 4 chapters and just put them up on the channel. Like, why not? YOLO. And then when it's all done, I'll just PDF the book out, or what the fuck is the format for Kindle again? I can't remember. I'll do something. And as long as I'm not charging for it, I don't think like Microsoft wants to get mad at me, as long as I'm super clear that it's fan fiction. So yeah, we'll see how that goes. Live stream stoked. Yes. If I pronounce anybody's name wrong, by the way, just tell me. It's all good. I won't pronounce it any better because you're in fucking chat. It's not like you can correct me. But we'll all know I'm wrong, which is at least fun. Shiloh, live stream stoked. Yes, live stream, and hopefully becoming more common over time. I can't remember where I got my Dorn model at the moment. Well, that's all good. We can't remember everything all the time. We are not elephants. Oh, I've got the hiccups so bad. Night Repentant. I know it would probably never happen, but I'd love to see the Fey Courts make an appearance in Trench Crusade in a similar vein to the Harlequins from 40k. I've seen a lot of people kind of say that, and I think they can do it. Like, I don't see why not. I think it will definitely have like a angle, because it's Mike. He doesn't do anything like the way you would think, but I think they could do it. I think they can do whatever they want. They're being very smart about not boxing themselves into any corners. Show us the cat. The cat had to go because the cat kept stabbing the shit out of my knee. She sits on my tower and just claws the fuck out of me while I'm talking, and not like scratching her head because she assumes I'm ignoring her. Valerian, bring the Fae to it would be awesome. Instead of a wall, they have a hedge. Yeah, there you go. Easy peasy. If you were to come up... Oh, I think I missed. Hang on. If you were to come up with a unit in a setting, what would it be? So... I've got a unit that I've come up with, and I think it's pretty cool. And I've got some stuff that I'm working on, but I'm working on it with other people, so I don't want to give like my number one pick, because that's a project I'm doing with some other people, and I don't want to like just spoiler it before we have our videos ready to go and our lore all written up and all the rest of it. What I'm really interested in seeing, and I think would be very cool, was people who lean... We got a little bit of it with the Air Rangers, but I would love to see people who lean more towards paganistic practices and can do like kind of druidy vibes. I think would be really, really cool. I think there's a lot of that shit floating around in various myth across Europe, and there's definitely a way to do it, and to do it well. I think we all think Vampires for Christ is fucking dope, and we should probably do that as well. That would be very cool. Brother, I definitely support your interest in writing and would look forward to reading anything you do. Thank you so much, Anthony. I appreciate that. The channel's been very good for me on that front. I've always had I've always written, but I've only ever written for myself, and to have people just enjoy it has been very nice. And I'm very appreciative of it for sure. Maybe a collab with a channel called Esoterica does all kinds of occult topics from a strictly academic standpoint. I was put on to Esoterica by one of the guys from Creaturecaster, and I've been watching a lot of the stuff. That channel is way too fucking smart for me. I've got nothing for them. Like, they're just leagues ahead of me as regards intelligence. So a collab there would just be me getting hard carried, and no doubt about it. Where are we? People just need to stop whining. I agree. In general, about everything, I think about 50% less whining would be good. You don't have to say my full... Why not King's Paladin Gaming? Why don't I have to say the full King's Paladin Gaming name? I can call you KPG. Do it that way. It doesn't slow down after you're 50. Yeah, I've no doubt. I have no doubt. Alrighty, huge fan of your content. Thank you, Connor. I greatly appreciate that. I really do. Like, it kind of feels weird and fucks me up a little bit that people like it. Hater Barkley channel coming soon. Yes, 100%. Let's just go all miserable about everything. That will make our lives better. I love how both biblically and historically accurate Trench Crusade is, and it's actually terrifying. Yeah, I think they've moved the right stuff that they need to move. I think just having the Crusade start at completely the wrong time was one of the best things they ever did, because it just completely removes the idea that it's real. Like, the very first anchor is just in a weird place, and I think that was very smart. Probably a conscious move. So that's definitely good. I love how painting new Antioch minis while listening. Awesome. I'm gonna re-pop the Discord in, the link for the Discord, just in case anybody's not a member and thinks they might want to be. I think it's turning into a pretty sweet spot already. It's very chill. It's very relaxed. I'm very happy that people convinced me to just set it up, because I've been really enjoying it. I've just been reading it during the week while I'm working too much. And literally every time I go to look at it, like, I'm not savvy, so it takes me a minute to find the link every time, and I'm punching the shit out of my camera. Because of course I am. There we go. SpongeBob, what up? SpongeBob was around last time. I think SpongeBob was one of the people who definitely convinced me to do the fucking Discord. Painting Iron Sultanate minis while listening. Fucking sick. I'm so jealous. I really want to, like... I have to set back up my printer. I still haven't done it because I was too busy, but that's happening tomorrow for sure. And I think I'm going to just mash out a bunch of black rail and paint them all. And that'll be pretty sick. And sometimes religion takes a backseat to necessity. There was a famous incident wherein priests defined beavers as fish to survive a food shortage during Lent. That's just smart. You know, you do what you can. You do what you have to. The easiest thing to do, I think, is if you believe in a higher power, you should probably default to that state that the higher power probably wants good things for you and good things for the people around you. And I don't just mean the people around you whose names you know, but like everyone. Essentially, a higher power would probably just default to thinking you know, these little guys down here, they can't create the entire universe. So, you know, just give them a nice time, and then go from there. Like if you're in Lent, you're not allowed to eat meat, and there's no meat. You could eat fish, and there's no fish, and then there's beavers all of a sudden, and you could totally eat them if they were called fish. Then go for it. That's just, we'll refer to that as smart inventory management. Jeremiah managed to get a group of furries into Trench Crusade by showing them Path of the Beast. Now they're all waiting for official minis. Yes, I really like Path of the Beast. I'm not a furry. I've noticed there's lots of furries about the place. Fair play. So I'm glad they felt like they were represented in the game by the old Return to Dog faction. Tartaria faction possible. I would hope so. That'd be pretty dope. Question: has the new world been discovered yet in Trench Crusade? No, and technically, I don't know if it will be. There's everybody has their headcanon as to what exactly it is that's happening over there and all the rest of it. But we know that the heretics kind of took control of the Atlantic, so European expansionism never really occurred. Bits and bobs would have made it over, but not in any major way. But on the other hand, and this is a conversation I had with Jamie, and I don't know how many of you will know Jamie, but Jamie's like the guy who works for Factory Fortress that like handles a lot of the Kickstarter and a lot of the office work essentially. And we were talking about how like there's a Thompson machine gun in the world of Trench Crusade, so you just gotta wait and figure out if they'll ever explain something or not, and go from there. Who did what? Did someone subscribe? No, donated. Vectorium. Thank you so much. That's like extremely generous, and unnecessary. But anything that does get donated will just go towards probably like art commissions, just to get cool little bits and bobs drawn up, like the Mortar Mommy and things of that nature. I think would be fun. When can we expect a Scanner Barkley Eat Shit t-shirt? That's actually a dope idea, and I might do it. I'll figure out a way to do it. I think we can do a design that's just like printed when you order it, and unless that's like super expensive, in which case I'll just get them done up, and I'll post them like from my house. So yeah, Eat Shit t-shirts. All right, let's do that, because that sounds fucking hilarious. I think as far as lore goes, the misery the Christian factions suffer are self-inflicted in as far as self-flagellation and self-inflicted misery. I don't recall heaven requiring self-torture. See, that's my stance on it too. Like, there's not a huge amount that I'm aware of Jesus or Christ or God or the Holy Ghost or the Holy Spirit or whatever element of that triumvirate you want to focus in on, and whatever you want to call it, turning around and going, you know what, you really got to stick a nail through your head, go crucify yourself, because like it totes happened to me. People do that. People make those choices. People really seem to feel like they have to suffer on earth to justify what they perceive to be paradise in heaven. So as far as I'm concerned, the whole way the trench pilgrims act is probably, you'd see a lot of people act that way if it were to happen for real. I think people would really struggle with it, and they'd want to find a way to feel empowered and controlling it, and you'd see a lot of that kind of stuff. Jonathan, 1573, Sacred Order of Dragon halts the heretic advance after the destruction of Byzantium. Like, fuck doing it before, right? Fuck those guys. 1 million heretics impaled in the hills of Wallachia. Yeah, I think that's really cool. I like the way they do that. They pick up on fun little stuff, like from the lore released during the week. Like that Hellgate, the mini Hellgate appears in the Kola Peninsula, and somebody in the comment section pointed out that in the Kola Peninsula there's actually like the deepest man dug pit ever in history is there. And I thought that was a real like fun way to do it, maybe. Shiloh. Okay, like I'm almost certain there was a rapper called Shiloh. Maybe. Also, good job on spelling it out for me, because I keep telling everybody I'm an idiot, but you actually believed me, so thank you. Suffering for God is beautiful if it is necessary, but some take it too far. Yeah, interesting. Interesting stance. I think, in general, within human history, I think a lot of people have shown that like it's commendable, in a way, to suffer for other people. Like once you're not doing it for your own ego, but you hear all kinds of stories, right? Of like shit. I remember on Reddit once I saw like a pizza guy like just ran into a burning house and pulled out a bunch of kids, and even that, like even those little things of like there's kids in there, he didn't really think about it, he just like legged it in. Groovy. But should he go around just running into empty houses because he thinks it's cool? No. Well, empty burning houses anyway. Definitely not. It'd be nice to see some Buddhism stuff. Yeah, I think that would be pretty cool. I don't know when that might happen, but I do predict a world where the scope of the game grows out to be global, which would be pretty interesting. Juan Perez. I was wondering where all the pagans are. Yeah, I want to see some pagans. So that'll probably be, if I could do a unit, it'd be like a pagan unit. For sure. Have people seen Chinese TC make his own Chinese Christian faction? Yes, I follow. There's a Twitter account, the name of which I can't remember, who does like translations and puts it out. I think he knows them. And I've spoken to the person who runs the Twitter account, and I said, look, if you want to, like, I think I would love to sit down with those folks and chat with them about what it is that they're doing, but they would prefer to have their work done and to have their faction fully formed before I start nosing around and asking them questions. So at some point, basically, I'll be doing a video on that, and I'll be talking to them about what it is that they've been doing, because it's sick as fuck. Like, it's really high level shit. So yeah, it would be cool to see diesel punk mechs like the ones in Iron Harvest. I'm assuming, okay, now this is a huge leap, right? But you think about it logically as product development for a moment, as gross as that sounds, is they get this working, they get the skirmish game working, and they establish the world. People are going to want to fight bigger battles. So I'm very hopeful that they scale it up to the next step, which would be to go from skirmish game to kind of 40k fantasy battle, AOS scaling, and then from there, if that all works out, go up to epic scaling. I think would be sick. I would personally love to see the straight jump to epic scaling, but I know that that scaling just isn't as popular, so I don't really see why they would do it straight off the bat. What do we think the church space program is trying to accomplish? I think they're trying to reach God. Like, if you consider when they started it, they probably have a heavy belief in the firmament concept. And I think they're trying to get there and talk to God and be like, yo, do you want to fucking help us out here? I really wouldn't be surprised if that was it. Hey, Bill, how you doing? Hope you're doing well, mate. I'm very nearly finished the work. Next week is officially now my last week of work, and then I can get on to that stuff that we were talking about. Bill, it'll be good. Everybody check out Bill. If you don't know Bill, I will link Bill's website. Bill does some really wonderful sculpts. He does my favorite um, artillery which sculpts by a distance compared to other stuff, and he's just got really good stuff for like quite a few games. So go take a peek. That would be great. Literal rods from God would be intense. Yeah, imagine just like Auxilia Sorcerer prones up for 60 seconds to get some Goethic magic off and catches 14 feet of fucking tungsten through the brain. And that would be sick. I honestly think it's more realistic for all higher powers to be evil, especially given the suffering in the world. I don't know if it's more realistic for them to be evil. I think it's realistic for them to be removed, in a way, from it. One of the things that I thought about a lot when I was younger was if there's... I've always kind of classed myself as agnostic just because I hate the idea of being wrong. And I don't I don't want to overcommit to no deity or anything. Yeah, no deity existing, and I'll get to the next part of that sentence now in a minute. But if you consider you, right, as a human being with the timeline and lifeline of a human being and the capabilities of a human being, there's nothing inherently different between you and the highest achieving people in human history. So you could essentially decipher the secrets of creation, right? There's no reason, metaphorically, as to why you can't discover the theory of relativity instead of Einstein, is what I'm getting at. And you're going to live maybe 8 decades on average, 7.5, 8 decades on average, depending on where you are in the world. And you're going to perceive all manner of things, and you're going to store vast amounts of information in your brain, and you're going to create almost endlessly every day that you exist. So if we compare the average human being, never mind a high achiever, to like a fruit fly, is there not an almost divine gulf between those two existences if you map them out that way? So if that much of a gulf can exist within nature, who's to say there's not something so far removed from us in its timeline and its ability and its intellectual understanding of everything and its creative nature that we wouldn't consider it to be divine compared to us, is what I'm saying. But we don't think of the fruit fly very much, right? We just kind of swat them. So I don't suspect that it would think of us very much either. So being not being cared for is very similar to having somebody be evil towards you when you are the person who's not being cared for, I guess, is what I'm saying. It's a very complicated thought process, but I think I did a very poor job of laying out what it was I was trying to say there. Cosmic choir practice. What better acoustics than the vacuum of space? Actually, well, technically they're the worst possible acoustics, right? So, oh no, I got to your second sentence. Sorry, I prejudged you, Valerian. I'm very sorry. Don't unsubscribe. My family will be destitute. If you were to believe most YouTubers on this fucking platform. If the voice of God is anything like radio, as I've gleaned from the lore, then space is probably not the best place for that. Oh, who's doing stuff? I keep going away from the thing. Tom Rawstorn subbed. No idea if you're here, mate, but if you are, thank you. And if you're just a general sub, you might accidentally watch this, and who fucking knows? I think the trench programs are supposed to represent an extreme form of Christian aestheticism, a thing that exists in many religious traditions. I would agree. It's like, I've talked a little bit at the start of the stream about being in Ireland and growing up here as Ireland became more liberalized and the grip of the church was let go. But like, I'm from a family who for generations experienced how rowdy sometimes things can get. You know, I have like people in my family who were left-handed in the 40s and 50s, and if you were left-handed in Ireland in the 40s and 50s, then priests and monks and nuns just thought you were evil and they just beat the fucking shit out of you. So I have a hard time not seeing trench pilgrims as being representative of just how crazy people can go when they're given cause to. I need Titans. Yeah, Titans would be pretty sick. I would love to see those big walker things that you see in the background of some of the art. That'd be dope, and giant like demon engines and shit like that. That'd be sick. They still need to make lore for the big guys. Yeah, exactly. I like the fact that they're not really like going into detail on some stuff, but other stuff I just really need to know and want to know. So I'd like them to get cracking. Where are we? Done a wee bit of work on that particular project. We should try and catch up next week. Yeah, definitely. We'll do it when if you're free, we'll do it Wednesday. Because Wednesday should be pretty chill. I hope we get more info on the rumored Trader Paladin. A theory I have is that the Trader Paladin has something to do with the destruction of Antioch. That'd be pretty dope. Imagine if they like self-nuked. So I don't know how many people know that Mike a while ago did a short story about paladins. Let me see if I can find it. And it's really cool. I disagree. I don't think we're that fundamentally different from flies. We're just desiring hungering beasts who can create. So you're a path of dog guy. I'm more of a I think we're very different from flies because flies never invented the fucking PlayStation, as far as I'm concerned. So flies suck. But I completely agree with you that ultimately we do have our base. You never get that far from the swamp, you know, from your old lizard brain. Alrighty, here's the... This is something that's really cool because one of the things that came up was people thought in the... Hey, Feel No Paint, how are you? So far, I'm not painting anything. I've just been rabbiting on about lore like a fucking donkey. How was your evening? How was your game? So yeah, people were talking about how with the Hellmouth, it'd be a way for the paladins to get to hell. But paladins that we know of have their own ways of getting to hell. They have almost like infernal diving bells, you can think of them as. And the Castle San Angelo, I'm assuming, is where they are because that's where they all chill. And yeah, they just like have these arming chambers, get all their armor put on, and then these doors open and they walk down into hell. From there, so I think they've got their own methods of getting in. Is Trench Crusade heavily inspired by Berserk? I mean, I would have to go out on a limb and say a tremendous volume of Western media at this point. Anybody under the age of 40 who's creating things is probably to a degree inspired by Berserk, because everybody's seen it. Like, these things don't exist in a vacuum. Once you've exposed yourself to somebody else's art, whether you incorporate elements of it or not, it's there. It's in the mix. Like, you know, it's definitely something that is changing the shape of your own creative process. Unless you're like of a singular fucking vision. Like, you would have to be absolute bear trap of a mind to not let the world and the media that you consume and all that kind of stuff impact your own creations. So we know for a fact that like the Sin Eater is essentially a Berserk Easter egg. as far as the devs are concerned. That was very much the intent. So even the most holy of beings can be corrupted. Exactly, especially if you don't know the nature of its existence. Like, you know, you can't know. Do we know if there are any flying units to appear in the future? Also, did Europe ever start colonizing the Americas? No on the colonizing. Well, not to any essential degree. And flying units, there are flying units. There are units that can fly now. It's not kind of what you think of when you think of flying units, but like there's flying units in the game. They ignore like shitty terrain and stuff like that. The church wouldn't lie about that. That's what heretics do. That's 100% what heretics do. I personally don't think TC would benefit from a 40k scale game. Interesting. So would you want it to go up more? Would you want it to stay where it is? That's an interesting thought. You're probably the first person I've ever seen who doesn't want that step into progress or step into process. The church keeping secrets, believe me. Yeah, well, we know that for a fact now with the synod, because they're up to something with the alchemists in there. Yeah, Mad God I've seen. And it's certainly an experience. It's probably something everybody should actually watch. And there's not many pieces of media that I would say that about, but it's definitely a whole fucking thing. Like when you perceive that he did that himself. For sure. Now someone needs to bash the assassin into Trench Crusade. P character design. Beelzebub has quite a lot of flying units. Yes. All them fly thralls, little bastards. Yeah, Bloodborne, Blasphemous. Religious horror is definitely... One of the reasons why I like Trench Crusade and my own personal take on Trench Crusade is I like the gory details. Not because they're gory, but because they're uncomfortable. I don't like thinking about pulling my skin off and being a lobster man, like what happened to Anton or whatever. So because I don't like it, I think it's worth exploring it for myself, because it is kind of scary. And I'm from, I guess, a huge amount of the media that I consumed from during my teenage years, which would have been 1993 onwards. It was a really interesting time because there was genuine boundary pushing, especially in horror writing with splatterpunk. Like splatterpunk was a genre of horror that actual horror writers, or people who felt that they were actual horror writers, really didn't like. They thought it was like pointlessly gross and didn't really see the underlying themes of it. But it appealed to a huge amount of us. And I see some of that in Trench Crusade, I guess. I see the detail, the goriness, the pointlessness of me. Like, there's a sentence in Fire and Frost where I'm talking about, like, the tip of a knife, like, slicing through the face and following the grooves of the skull. Like, you don't need to go into that kind of detail other than the fact that it's disturbing to think about. Like, that happening really slowly, and it's your face, and you're like, oh, wait, that's going to fucking kill me when it gets to my eye. Like, shit like that is interesting, and I like it. For my money, I prefer skirmish-sized games. 100 models isn't better than, like, 12 at most. Yeah, I agree with you. Like, I'm definitely not disagreeing. I'm definitely a skirmish guy. I just think eventually the likelihood is that it will expand. They'll do like huge incursion game maybe at some point. I don't know. It's what I would want to do if I was developing it. Yeah, builds don't stop just because you're a crustacean, I'm afraid. Yes, Scorn is a really interesting game. you could argue for sure that it's somewhat derivative of what Geiger did, but it's also been very clearly processed through somebody else's phobias. And it's like, it's a very intimate examination, I think, of how Geiger art made somebody feel. And that has a lot of value, I think, as art. The battle should either be like 15 guys who capture this holy nuke and win the battle, or thousands of soldiers in a massive push. Yeah, like I wouldn't say no to tremendously huge, epic 40k scale fights for sure. I think the larger games could be more story oriented. Correct me if I'm wrong, but currently both sides of war are licking their wounds. The skirmish game comes from this fact. Yes, exactly. It's in between the big moments. So people are just trying to steal the next set of troops and find the artifacts that they need, and generally fuck with each other in smaller ways, if possible, as they set up for the next big thing. That's the exact way that I've interpreted the world for sure. Oh, excuse me. I think that's what when you summon an angel. Yeah, definitely. The angel summons thing is really cool. I like that whole thing. I love that short story. Just the guy describing his own head going on fire is certainly very interesting. It's a fun mechanic. So if there were to be larger scale games, perhaps the devs could hold official events to push the narrative forward. I think if they were going to do large scale games, they would need to do a living world type thing, right? Where things changed in the world, and you can still have your skirmish level stuff going on, no doubt about it, but you'd also have kind of big fights and things of that nature. Do you know what the Metachrist looks like? I heard they look pretty messed up. I'm assuming they look like fucked up versions of like what we perceive Jesus to be, because I'm gonna go out on a limb and guess that Jesus might work on those same rules where if you perceive Jesus, you perceive him as you think he is. So there hasn't been a French Revolution, so there's probably a French emperor still. Yeah, as far as we know, there is, like, French is a monarchy. Prussia has been described as the rare democracy. So I'm assuming there's still a monarchy. Probably still got a king. The fucking dorks. God bless the nuclear warhead of New Antioch. Alrighty, that's about an hour and a half of just chatter. We always have a nice chatter. I think I'm gonna change the setup at the start, and there'll be like default chatter streams for a while, and then we'll go from there. Oh yeah, one of the other things about the lore from yesterday. So there's a Hellmouth to the north, so we can potentially assume that there's more elsewhere. It would be fun if there was a Hellmouth in the quote unquote Americas. Would be pretty dope. And you just do like a solo expansion almost of, you keep it separate maybe, and you introduce some new factions, and they're fighting like new heretic factions who we haven't seen before, because they're trying to do something completely different to the people who are trying to take over the Levant. The Levant is like Mammon and Beelzebub and whomever the fuck, whereas over there you might have like Belphegor and people like that. So that could be pretty cool. I thought that was kind of interesting. It kind of confirmed something that I've hinted at in my fan canon, is that like the politics of hell really has a lot to say in who's in charge of the gate and how much energy any of those gates have and what exactly they can send through. I feel like that was heavily hinted at in the lore as well. And yeah, I think that's it. That was the stuff that really stood out to me as being quite groovy. Scorn is my all-time favorite game. Interesting. I don't mean that in a... It's just I really like when people's all-time favorite games are those kind of very individualized, very personalized picks. That's quite groovy. Did Carl Benz ever invent the automobile? I'm pretty sure he did. Yeah, I think he invented the conveyor belt as well. I think Old Antioch possibly blew up because the Paladin portal went wrong. We know what killed Engelier, but not what killed the other one. I don't think the Paladin portals are at New Antioch, or at least they're not anymore. So that actually might be a really interesting reason for them not to be, right? Because they're at the Castle San Angelo. So if they did have some at New Antioch, Old Antioch, shall we say, and blew it up, that would be fucking hilarious. And then the church are like, oh, it was totally the bad guys that did that, not us and our terrible portal control. And do you think someone could make a warband related to the Americas in some way, or should they wait for lore? You can do whatever you like. That's the joy of the game. My personal stance is that someone like me shouldn't do it because it's a bit of a overstep, because I exist in this like weird place now where I'm quote unquote a YouTuber and I have like a, you know, decent audience and whatever. So I definitely shouldn't do it, but I think fans should 100% do it. Explore your creativity and think about kind of how it might happen and what is of interest to you and come up with your own stuff. 100%. The Levant isn't just on the front, they're in the middle of it all, from what I've heard. Talking about America, I think they never have time to explore it. Taylor, what are you doing here? You meanie. You're posting your very well painted miniatures in the Discord, making everybody else feel bad. And by everybody else, I mean me. Some of the art appears to have jets in the background. Oh yeah, it definitely has jets. Like, jets exist 100% in the setting. What am I doing? It's only 8:30. It's not that late. I'm not that old, you fuck. Strength, conviction, and willpower. Great and powerful spirit. Scannerbarkly, one of the few Trench Crusade content creators. Along with Arcano TV. You're one of my favorites. Alright, good name drop. I'm gonna check out Arcano TV. Dope. I'll need Google Translate or something, but I'll check that shit out. Yeah, Crispy's like always around, always supportive, always chatty, always like everything you could hope for somebody to be. Just like chatting away and generally being a fucking legend. So go on, Crispy. Oh man, I'm quite tired. So yeah, what will I do? I don't think I have the brain capacity to paint. If I'm honest, I will overpaint this guy and just fuck it up. Whereas right now, I think it's pretty groovy. I think a little more green ink and it'll be in a pretty good spot. Just around some parts of the flesh. But mostly I think that guy's done, and everything else I have is either 3 Hell Knights, Clive, who are all almost done, or they're currently in liquid form in bottles a lot. I could paint Giant Observer, but they're not. They're not undercoated in any way. Truly, the best thing about 3D printing is just painting, like printing giant shit. So, cheers, Taylor. I'm trying to practice and get good at painting in case I have any reason to need to be at some point down the line. Oz, I got an 1872 bookstore in Vienna, Austria. Books don't sell that well anymore. I was thinking about turning the back section into a playground for Trench Crusade only. That's pretty interesting. Like, do you just like flat out own the bookshop? Because if you're not paying rent, you can do whatever you want. But if you are paying rent, you gotta make sure people are paying to play Trench Crusade. Oh man, you can't really make predictions on a project like that. Okay, you own it, so it doesn't fucking matter. If it was me, I'd do it. Like, I don't know if I would do it Trench Crusade only, but I would 100%. I mean, growing weed is always a fucking good option no matter what. Like, I would do it. Personally, if I had the space, I would 100% do it. But I don't know if I do Trench Crusade only. I think I would do broad and use it as a way to infect people with Trench Crusade. Would be what I do. Taylor, I think you might have a model for me to print and paint after Adepticon early next week. Interesting. Okay, I'm intrigued. I'm intrigued and obvious. So that's good to hear. That's good to hear. Yeah, everybody loves weed. Weed is a growing market. Like, tish. You can definitely go for weed. I would never say that, though, on a live stream. It's clearly sarcasm and a joke. Because I don't know what the legal status of weed is where you live. Basically. Alrighty. I think I'm going to wrap it. No, weed isn't legal in the EU. No stamps, no seeds that you don't need. Don't go out and grow some badass weed. I love it. No, it's not. It's not legal in like the vast majority of the EU. It's decriminalized, I want to say, in Portugal and parts of Holland. Are the yeomen smoking jays? Hells yeah, they are. The ultimate devil's lettuce. Yeah, I know. I'm very jealous of the fact that it's legal there because I feel like if I was able to get some good high CBD, very low THC stuff, I'd really appreciate that. But what can you do? Hey, Europe's not a particularly progressive place, like, in general. Unfortunately, we're slow and dumb on a lot of shit. Government stuff on. That's fucking crazy. I love that. I'm very jealous. Same here in the States. We just like to pretend. Yeah, I mean, that's unfortunately the way of much of our societies right now. We're really just pretending to make progress on various very important things, and we're just not doing it. Alrighty, I don't want to spin off into mad politics rant because I feel like I'm just very tired, and I will 100% start talking mad shit. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna call the stream here. It was really nice just chatting. I'm gonna rearrange the setup for next time, and streams will be coming at different times from now on. There'll be, well, from next week onwards when I finish up that client work, there will be like cool shit like more like stuff that suits different time zones a little bit will be pretty dope. And maybe I'll be able to convince people like Bill or people like Taylor or something to drop in and have chats and just say hello to you and talk about the things that they are all working on and whatnot, so we can have a chill chatterooski. Thanks to everybody for tuning in today. I feel like I wasn't particularly in tune or entertaining just because I've been so fucking tired, but as always, I greatly appreciate each and every one of you just for like watching the videos and being so cool and kind. It means a lot to me. So alrighty, talk soon, nerds. Bye bye.